Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. In this two-part series of the Hangar Z Podcast, Jack Schonely and I sit down with Lt Steve Farris from the Seminole County Sheriff's Aviation Section. Lieutenant Farris shares his unique journey, tracing his early interest in law enforcement and aviation, alongside his family history that shaped his career path. Lieutenant Farris discusses his progression from patrol officer to helicopter pilot, and eventually earning the title of chief pilot, as he highlights critical moments that influenced his ambition and guided his leadership strategies within the aviation section. We examine the growth of Seminole County and the unique challenges of living in an area with a significant alligator population. Lieutenant Farris discusses the structure of the aviation unit and the integration of drones into their operations. He also shares invaluable insights on the challenges and successes of the aviation program, emphasizing the importance of effective communication, fostering a strong culture, and the need for strategic succession planning within the aviation unit. We also get an opportunity to discuss aircraft replacement cycles and the financial justifications behind them. We also discuss considerations necessary for operating in diverse weather conditions. With a strong emphasis on leadership principles, Lieutenant Farris articulates how common sense plays a role in enhancing operational efficiency and safety. Thank you to our sponsors, Robinson Helicopters, Astronautics Corporation of America, and Bell.
So I looked at that. I said, this is how much pilot 1, 2, and 3 is. We need to raise. We haven't raised it at all. We've been doing this 5-6 years. You know, we were trying to get it raised 5 or 10%, like the deputy pay was getting raised each year. So we finally got that raised. We presented, here's the current salary surveys. And I said, I recommend at least this to be with the industry. And they did it. So everybody got, I mean, you look, now we're on par with, it used to be the medevac, you know, the air ambulance pilots were always making the most. And if you look at some of the salary surveys, like one of the ones I used looked at our industry, and then you saw the air ambulance pilots there too. It included the helicopter, and not just like MBAA is mostly jets. And so I looked at it and I was like, wow, we're right there with the air ambulance folks now. And it gives them something to work towards, to get more ratings, to get that Bambi bucket or hoist sign off once they get their, you know, their hours in to do that. And so yeah, there's a step plan, and there's opportunity, but it's not, you know, I wish we could get more where they could promote from within, so that when I retire, there's a sergeant already that could be eligible for a lieutenant. But, you know, I did it as a deputy for many years where I didn't get promoted. Then I started testing. I was getting support that they would promote me in place. They encouraged me to test, so I did. And I think that helps. You know, I look back and everybody was like, well, you know, he's the deputy chief pilot. No one ever gave me a problem that wasn't going to be a problem anyway. But it was the problem folks that were like, oh, he's just a deputy. Let me see what I can do here.
Yeah.
You know, and looking back, I didn't see it at the time. But even though I had parity to a sergeant, it was like, you know, it's not good. You know, and I had one of my mentors say, you should be promoted to the level of your responsibility, rank commensurate with authority or responsibility. And I was like, huh? But, you know, I see it now. I see the difference where, you know, it does help. You know, you have to earn respect, but where the rank comes into place is when you're dealing with a challenge, you know, where you have to document and write something up. And, you know, that's no fun. None of us like to do that. But, you know, it's challenging to do that as a deputy.
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, we're operating under a paramilitary organization that has rank structure. So to do things properly, you have to follow the chain of command. And that's where I think aviation has some problems because of what you just said. You have somebody who may not be in a sergeant's spot to promote to lieutenant when you are in a position to retire. So then you've got this void. How do you get the deputy from deputy now to lieutenant without, you know, without going out of order in the chain of command? So it's almost like putting a round peg in a square hole. So I've always looked for unique solutions to that, and people have come up with some pretty interesting ideas. So interesting to talk to you about that. Jack, I know you guys at LA had some different incentives as far as flight pay goes. How did that work for you guys?
It evolved over the years, but it was basically for pilots and TFOs. years ago, when you got the job at air support, most people on our that were applying for that were police officer 3s. They had like 2 stripes, corporal stripes, but we called it police officer 3. And you would give up those stripes to go to air support. You'd go back to a P2. A P2 is somebody that's just off probation. It's the lowest police officer rank you can have is P2. Mm-hmm. And you would give that up, but you would get the bonus pay of, and at the time, pilot was more than TFO. That has now changed over the years where it's almost equal, if not equal. It's really close now. And as it should be. Both people are in the aircraft. Both people have huge responsibilities. They're different. You know, one's operating an aircraft, one's being responsible for what's going on in the ground. But that the pay incentive was good for a lot of people. It was worth giving up your stripes for, you know, to come up. And it worked out pretty good. You ended up pilots, and now TFOs are making lieutenants pay. Yeah. Patrol lieutenants pay. And as it should be. You know, the average patrol officer is not taking written tests and FAA check rides and quarterly check rides and having to stay current with all sorts of technology and air, you know, emergency procedures and all that. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. There's people that look at it and go, "Oh, you get that big bonus pay. Oh, yeah. Wait till you hear all the things I have to do." You know, as aside from being a cop. These are all the things that the FAA requires and that the department requires of a pilot or a TFO. And then they see that and they go, "Oh, I see why you're getting a little bit of extra pay now." Well, It wasn't just free money. You know, it was because there's requirements and currencies and all that stuff. And then once they learn that, they realize that it's worth it. And it's just what you talked about, Steve, you know, convincing your department, hey, we got to be up to par in pay. The other benefit of that is that you don't have pilots that are going to go, "Wow, I got my commercial now, and boy, that medevac job pays this much more. I think I'm leaving the sheriff's department." You know, you don't have that because it's equal. There's a lot of departments in this country, aviation units, law enforcement aviation units, that deal with that fight all the time, where they lose pilots because of the pay thing. And instead of just paying them a little bit more and keeping them happy, they lose them because they go to medevac or commercial or, you know, doing other things within aviation. So good benefit. Good for you, Steve, for fighting that fight. And it'll benefit your unit in the long run for sure. For sure.
And unless you have someone lined up, it takes years to replace that spot. And I have lost a couple of people due to that situation with pay and just opportunity for growth. And like, what do? You start out. So I wrote that in the memo. That was part of the justification. Is
perfect.
You know, here's the people that have left, and here's why. Yep. And if we keep the pay on par, we can encourage the folks to stay and make this a lifelong thing instead of doing like everybody's doing now. What's going on? We're even seeing in our industry, they're jumping around. Yeah, because people will hire right into the aviation now. Remember LAPD? You guys would never know. You have to do. I remember that when I visited there. You have to do 5 years on the streets. So I said, well, probably won't ever be able to work for LAPD. And but you know, I'm sure if it ever got to the point where there was no pilots, you'd have to relook at that. Sure, and that's what I often thought. Here is I couldn't train pilots quick enough because I wasn't allowed the funding. Now I have the funding. Right. They go out, pay for the whole private helicopter. Everybody's just doing helicopter now. I did airplane first, but they just go straight to helicopter since we don't have any planes. And then if they successfully pass it and they were approved to go do that and I have the money, I can reimburse them half of that. And I just wasn't ready to support fully paying for it. I'm like, I feel like, what if the person's kicking the can and they don't pass their medical or they get check ride-itis and they've spent all this money. I'm like, go out and show me that you can pay, that you can get your medical, that you can pass a check ride, you can do an auto rotation, and you'll front the money. You know, we'll send you there. They get to fly the A-Star. I haven't had one person yet go do that hasn't left here with at least 35 hours of A-Star time, and they know how to take off and land. and it's all log time with a CFI. So that's a big boost to support. You know, what would that cost if you go rent an A-Star for $2,500 an hour? I mean, that's a lot of money we've invested in letting you take the controls. And you know, we do the pitch hitter course where they go in the sim. We have a small simulator that they can log hours with, and then they go in the actual aircraft and they can, you know, we'll do the full-time guys for sure. And if the part-time ones show up out here a lot, they can get that sign off too. And if they want to go get their rating, you know, and then after that, it's all paid for.
Yeah.
Commercial, instrument, CFI, they ain't paying for nothing.
Yeah.
And
it's a good investment.
You talked on the simulators. So during our trip, we went to Oxford and went with those folks, and they have a simulator in their hangar, which is awesome. Their TFOs get a chance to get in that simulator anytime they want to go through some of those EPs you're talking about, to help familiarize them with, you know, the process and procedure of doing those. And then when you get a chance to actually go do it, you know, in a pitch hitter type course scenario, it's not foreign. And then you can, once you've done that, you can keep those skills current and fresh, which I think is a great way to do that. The TFOs, it's tough to ask them to do that job of a pitch hitting pilot when you maybe have gone once or twice to a school or to had a chance to do the EPs. So to have the simulator training, I think is a great tool to help in that type of scenario.
Yeah, we actually have an A-Star simulator. We have a little simulator room here in the hangar that we bought, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. It's still going. We just replaced some hardware on it and some software updates, but you can log some of that time.
Yeah.
FAA approved simulator. It's an old school A-Star with the throttle on the, you know, it's like a B model with steam gauges, but it works. And they actually make them right here in Seminole County, and they go all around. They sell them all around the world. We've had people visit and see it, and our neighbor agency just bought one. So yeah, that's been pretty huge to be able to do.
At AppsCon last year and then at AGI this year, got a chance to see Loft's simulator that they've built for the 125. And Jack, you got a chance to fly that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What was your experience like with that?
It was incredible. It was incredible. I mean, it looks real impressive. It's the virtual reality goggles that you put on, and then the controls are obviously there, and it has slight movement, just enough that with what you're seeing, it really makes you feel like you're flying. But I've flown some full motion simulators that were not as good as that. It was that realistic. It was incredible to me. And I think a lot of it has to do with those goggles. You know, the technology's come a long way in that area. But, you know, I flew for about 20 minutes and shot a couple of approaches, one to a runway, one to a rooftop helipad in Bern, Switzerland. I mean, they told you where you were. And then they were really nice. They knew where I had worked. And they said, "All right, Jack, close your eyes." And I closed my eyes. And then they said, "We're going to put you someplace." And they put me on the rooftop of the tallest building in LA on the helipad, someplace that I had landed many times. And they said, "Give us a tour of downtown LA." And it was amazing, the detail. It was really cool. And it felt like just being back flying in downtown.
Yeah.
The technology's come a long way, but like you were just talking, Steve, it doesn't have to be, you know, this fancy gauges and stuff. It's about the stick. It's about the stick time. It's about being able to go inadvertent IMC and survive and things like that. Simulators are just so valuable, and initial training too. Just getting some initial hours in a simulator instead of going out and learning how to hover, you know, doing 20 hours learning how to hover, you know, in an aircraft, a real aircraft. It just makes sense that the simulator just saves money, saves time. It's safer.
Yeah.
The risk of damaging something is almost zero, you know, as opposed to going out and doing it for real. So there's a lot of pluses, of pluses. But that Loft was pretty cool. I encourage anybody who gets a chance to go fly that, to give it a shot and see what they think. But I was very impressed.
I got invited to fly that as well, and it was incredible how I reached in and you touch a switch and you feel it. But then you see the VR hand going, you know, it's not really your hand.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And it was very realistic. I couldn't believe how I really felt like I was, some of these VR sims, like at Blue Drop and the hoisting, you forget you're not, you lose yourself and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in a simulator.
Wasn't it cool how you could turn your head a long way and you'd still have the vision, looking across? That was really cool too. That's where those goggles come into play. And, I was amazed at that. And I hadn't flown in quite a while. And it just came right back. And I was like, wow, this feels exactly what I remember. Exactly. It was a 125. It was great. Great experience. Had a lot of fun. I had an audience with putting pressure on me. My old chief pilot was standing there and John was standing there and a few others, but it was very valuable, and I can see why they're succeeding.
Yeah, it was funny as you were going in there. Fred North was just coming out, so it was pretty neat to stand there and see folks like yourself and Fred North flying in that simulator. But it's really cool to see how technology is stepping in and providing these resources for us as an industry that weren't available before. And I'll be excited to see how that impacts our safety record. Hopefully it's a positive. You talked about double IMC scenarios, improving those.
Oh, that alone. If we can improve on that alone, nothing else, you could ignore everything else and just say, all right, we have this simulator for one reason, inadvertent IMC. My goodness, the lives that are going to get saved. No doubt about that.
That's the main reason we got it, because that's the biggest killer in our industry. So we mandate every 90-day currency on that.
Fantastic.
Double IMC scenarios with a CFI.
Yeah.
And that's the key, that every 90 days. I mean, lots of pilots can do it, but then you don't do that for a year. It's like you've never done it before. It can really get you in trouble. Some people can jump back after a year and do well, but if you're doing it regularly every 90 days, that's fantastic. You're definitely, you're staying ahead of the curve there and keeping your people safe without them even realizing how beneficial that's going to be, if it happens. And luckily there's not a whole lot of weather in Florida, so you don't have to worry about it too much.
That's why everybody's coming here to train and fly, is 90% of the time you can go fly, right? But it's those fog moving in. I mean, we have that time of year. Low ceilings, deteriorating weather. It can happen, but it's like 10% of the time or less. But we also encourage, we really aren't going out unless it's, marginal VFR or better and trending up or stable.
Yeah.
So that the pilots, everybody's got stricter personal minimums than, and that's never questioned.
Bell is proud to sponsor Vertical Helicasts and their vision to hold meaningful mission, safety, and best practice conversations in the helicopter industry. The lessons learned from these conversations will undoubtedly shape the future of both new and veteran helicopter operators.
Yeah. And that's what the simulator teaches you too. I mean, you get to see, for instance, we had a culture where there was a few people in supervisory positions that would say, we'd look outside and go, it doesn't look very good. This is kind of crappy. And some would say, go out and fly around, see what it looks like. Well, then they would come to the simulator in Texas and we'd put them through inadvertent IMC, and they'd be upside down and backwards after 20 seconds in the clouds. And they go, oh, maybe that's not such a good idea to go out and do that. That's right. It teaches you to respect the weather, because it can get us in trouble in the helicopter industry in a second. Not just law enforcement, but all the helicopter industry. But like you mentioned, Steve, number one reason, fatalities. So why wouldn't we want to do something to bring that number down or eliminate it?
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, I think you talked about, Steve, when you have the new supervisor that comes in air support. A lot of these agencies are in a position where they might have a new sergeant or lieutenant, or a combination of the two, coming in every other year. I think it's important to get these supervisors in a position where they see that they get to sit in a simulator and understand the principles of double IMC scenarios, so that they're not in a position where they're second guessing the crews and why they didn't go on a call, or why they should be safe. So in general law enforcement, if you tell your folks to charge, they're going to charge. Whereas in aviation, we pay our folks to make decisions based on a bunch of factors, and you have to trust them. And I think those supervisors, it's tough sometimes to get them to understand the whys behind that. So I think the simulator training is a great way to introduce folks to the whys of why we're making these decisions or why we're not going, you know.
That new Garmin autopilot that we just got on our latest and greatest helicopter, unbelievable. 3-axis, yaw dampener. I mean, talking about a lifesaver.
Absolutely.
And,
no doubt.
But you got to know how to use it. You know, you got to know how to use it. I see a lot of pilots. We've had the heli SAS since 2013. We got our first one. Incredible too. 2-axis. But now I go fly that and fly the Garmin. The Garmin one is so intelligent. It's like incredibly intelligent. And but the heli SAS was great. You know, like I said, we still have it in our older helicopter, and you get in there and you're like, oh man. But either one, I mean, they'll shoot an approach, they'll hover, but knowing how to use it and using it regularly and trusting it is a totally different story.
Yeah,
you know?
Trust is important.
What happened out in California, where you know you can have a helicopter equipped with everything, but if you're not comfortable or you get in a situation where it surprises you, I think it's so important. Even though you're instrument, you know, most of our pilots are instrument rated. We encourage that too, but that doesn't mean you're going to go out and, you know, our helicopter isn't certified to fly instruments. We aren't on planned instrument flights. It's the, oh man, I just got caught in some weather and you punch in. So I think that new setup is just incredible, the next level of technology. But it's, you know, you got to practice with that too. So we make them, you know, I just did a check ride recently. Got a new aircraft commander came on the line, and we were doing it in the new helicopter. And he's like, all right, where's the iPad? I'm like, it's dead. And he's like, well, where's the checklist, the IMC checklist? I can't find it. You know, and then everything's right there on that Garmin suite. Save your life. Charts, autopilot. I mean, and he did an incredible job. This Foggles coming in, you know, because we've trained that.
The tools that we're bringing into the industry to help in those things are huge. You brought up Foggles, and I think of the Icarus device that is pretty common now across the industry. And Nick's, you know, developed this I don't want to call it a simulator, but it's a training tool for these things. And man, you combine that with all these other things we're talking about. It really, you know, I'm excited again to look at our safety record 5 years from now and see hopefully a positive trend that comes as a result of all these things. But I realize we've gone through some rabbit holes, or gone into some rabbit holes that I didn't anticipate early on in the conversation. And we're an hour and 15 in. So I want to go back and just get a little bit of basic information from you on your agency as a whole. Could you talk to us and just broadly describe your agency, the sheriff's office, and you know, how many folks are working there, how big the response area is, which I think you touched on already, and then some of the assignments that are available to folks outside of aviation.
Absolutely. So we have over 1,200 employees, and about 450 of them are sworn, give or take. You know how the hiring situation goes. I think we have just under 450 currently employed. You know, it's a small county, but we're densely populated, like we talked about. There's a lot of opportunity. I mean, we have every unit section that you could possibly want. We're a big enough county where you can do everything from aviation to, you know, school crossing guard. You know, we have detectives, we have drug unit, we have fugitive unit, we have everything. Patrol, we have motorcycle unit, we have dive teams, we have canine, we have, you know, EOD, emergency ordnance disposal. We have drones. We currently, drones are not under aviation. I really did not support taking my limited team and sending them out to do drone stuff. I wanted the people that are out there already on those calls to learn the drones. You know,
good call.
I have a drone. I love drones. I'm not afraid of the drones. I think they're incredible, and we work with them. two-way communication, and making sure we know each other are there. That's working really well for us right now. They use it a lot, mostly during, like a suspicious package but they can use it whenever they want. It's a great tool. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves as technology evolves. What is it going to look like in 10 years? We're going to be launching something here from the hangar and just flying it from the desk, or, if you would have told me, almost 30 years ago when I got involved in this, that we would have this technology that we have in these helicopters now, I wouldn't have believed you. So in 10 years, so stuff's rapidly growing. But
yeah, a lot of uncertainty when it comes to how that'll grow. But there's one thing we know for sure is it's not going away, and it's going to continue to grow. So I think it's an interesting point in our profession in aviation. I think we have a unique opportunity to figure out how to best bring these two programs together so that, the drone operators aren't learning the mistakes that we've learned long ago, and make that a true force multiplier for the boys and girls on the ground that we're protecting. Now, Jack, you've had a unique opportunity to do some of the training with the UAS operators and how you're basically taking the lessons you learned over the course of your career and now teaching that to the drone operators. But I think it's a unique time, and I'm excited to see where they go. I'm, like you said, Steve, I'm not afraid of the drone industry. I think it's a great addition to what we're doing. And I think if done right, I think agencies will really benefit from having multiple tools to address these different scenarios, and to see the aviation programs work hand in hand with the drone units and just complement, each other's strengths and weaknesses. I think that'll be really neat to see that evolve. So, yeah,
it's here to stay, and it's expanding rapidly. I'm all for it too. And I think the keys are that the drone operators departments need to look at their drone operators and say, all right, you've got certified how to fly. That's great. But that's only the beginning. It's scratching the surface, something that the three of us can relate to. You have to learn how to not only fly, now you have to learn how to communicate, how to search, how to use infrared. And that's where a lot of departments are falling short, where they get these really cool big drones and they say, oh man, we were all certified. And well, do you have any training in how to use it as tactically? Not really. We're kind of learning on the fly. Well, guess what? There's your department has an aviation unit. There's an expertise there. It doesn't matter what the aircraft is. It doesn't matter that you're on the ground. Your perspective is looking at your screen from an aerial point of view. And that's the same as TFOs do. So you need to go talk to your TFOs. And I think the aviation units have a responsibility to help the drone programs, because they're going to be doing things that aviation units can't. But they need to know how to talk. They need to know how to search and do those things. And who better to teach them than the TFO?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the airframe is. It's the perspective. If it's an aerial perspective, you could be in a hot air balloon. And if you have a police radio, you better know how to talk to those cops on the ground and direct them and give them advice and tactical insight and all these things. And if you don't, you're just a hot air balloon flyer. I mean, you're just a drone pilot. But if you want to be a law enforcement drone pilot, you're going to be a pilot and a tactical flight officer. Just happen to be working on a drone. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I feel like going back to my early days as a TFO, two of the hardest things I felt like to do were, one, communicate effectively and efficiently, and then understand that aerial perspective and point of view, and being able to interpret what you're seeing in a way that the people on the ground could understand what you're trying to describe.
Exactly.
So those two things are, like you said, Jack, doesn't matter if you're looking at a screen on a drone or a hot air balloon or a helicopter. Those are all common skills that we have to learn. So it seems to me to make sense. Let's as an agency, as drone operators, let's lean on these folks that already have these skill sets and learn how they develop those, and then employ those as what we're doing. And again, allow this tool belt to be built. So I hope that to see that continue to grow.
Yeah.
Getting back to your agency, I'd like to look at the specifics of your aviation program. We've talked a lot about the program that you've built, kind of spread out, but can you tell us a little more about your program? How many folks you have, the mission profiles you support, which I know you support a lot of mission profiles. So it'll be interesting to go through that and then what you're currently flying in, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, 90% of what we do is back up the patrol units on the road, responding to calls per service. Every major incident, we have a helicopter there, either tracking fugitives, fleeing suspects, and then, of course, looking for missing persons, lost persons in the woods. Missing children makes up, probably 90% of what we do. And then the rest of it is broken up into, a lot of training for firefighting, training for rescue, hoist missions in the rural areas of our county, and actually all of Central Florida. We've responded in multiple different counties for those missions, and even firefighting. This weekend, we had a big fire in a neighboring county where we sent both of our helicopters, our entire fleet, with 2 Bambi buckets and 2 pilots, and did about 35 drops where over 6,000 gallons of water to help. The homes were in danger. And we just said, hey, can you cover, while we're doing this, cover our county for patrol? And we all have each other's channels, and we all work closely together. So that's pretty cool. But you know how that is. Fire season has its peaks and lows. I mean, we've had years where we've really had minimal. This year's starting out now to be quite a few calls after these lightning strikes have come through. But, we just have 2 aircraft, fly about 1,000 hours a year. And that stays pretty steady. I mean, it works out perfect on an H125, 500 hours a year. If you look at the 10-year plan that we have to keep them for 10 years, the engine doesn't come due till 5,000 hours, and that's right at the 10-year. There was talks of it being 6,000, which would have been perfect because I would have sold them with 1,000 hours on them. But we just sold one to El Dorado County out in California, Lake Tahoe. They're starting up a new unit. They've had no aviation. We've mentored and helped them. They buy our older machine, had a fresh engine in it with our legacy mission equipment, but it's still, if they can't afford new or someone can't afford the time to wait, they have some money, they're ready to start a unit. Our older aircraft are perfect for that. We did it with Jefferson County in Birmingham, Alabama, bought our 2006. They were the first to do that, and they've been going 7-8 years now, and we've been back out and helped them multiple times, mentoring them and helping them along the way. And they've got a successful program that they're trying to expand to get to 24/7 and maybe a second aircraft someday. But El Dorado's doing that as well. So if anybody out there, we have our 2017 aircraft that's going to be coming due for replacement in 2027 or maybe sooner if we can get somebody and it works out with their timing. We can help someone get started with an aircraft, and it comes with our help too. We enjoy helping others and passing along all the things that we've been able to do. Instead of trading in the aircraft with a bunch of holes in it, it stays in the family. It's been pretty incredible.
Yeah.
We've been able to do that twice now with our 2006 and our 2013. So I'm hoping that the 2017 will find a good home as well. We're already talking to a few agencies that are interested in it, but it's timing. You know how it is. You can't. Oh, yeah. We start planning now, and we could potentially, if we get our next new one lined up to purchase, and that's here, and then we can release that one. I kind of have a window of opportunity opening up here, just trying to see who would be interested in it. So that's been working well so far. I haven't had to trade one in yet, and we're on our 4th brand new one we just got.
You protect and defend. So do we. Astronautics' proven cybersecurity, connectivity, and upgrade solutions support helicopter OEMs and operators worldwide. When the mission matters, you need to trust that your avionics systems are secure, connected, and reliable because lives depend on it. Continue to protect and defend. So will we. Contact Astronautics at www.astronautics.com.
Really cool that you guys are doing that, and you're offering the insight for folks that are picking your aircraft up and how to use that tool, because a lot of agencies might be upgrading from a surplus aircraft or something, and now they've got all this technology. Well, it's not as simple as, well, here's the keys, go take it. you guys are offering the insight and helping them get that thing off the ground.
18 years of Airbus and 18,000 hours. Think about it, 1,000 hours a year. First one was in 2006, and it's proven to work and do the mission that we need, the multi-mission. High performance aircraft, plenty of power, and it's worked out well.
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to pay it forward and help others get started.
Yeah. What you guys are doing, I think, is great. And my agency did the same thing with the 10-year replacement cycle. I think a lot of agencies have an interest of doing that. Can you talk about some of the benefits of that 10-year replacement cycle and some of the financial justifications that you were able to put in place that allows you to do that? Because I think a lot of agencies, again, they want to do that, but don't really have a plan or understand how to justify that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, some of my biggest justifications are those first 10 years are we're not getting any unscheduled failures, little to none. Like maybe at year 7, you get an occasional something, a surprise. But, statistically from when I've been doing these, but the first 4 years and 3,000 hours, we pay a little extra to add that extra calendar year on to the warranty that it comes with. And that gives me 4 full years and 2,000 hours of coverage for the airframe. So there's basically no big budgets for maintenance, and there's little to no downtime. You're doing lube, oil, and filter. Our first big inspection is at 6 years and 3,000 hours, where we do the transmission, tail rotor gearbox, servos, and Starflex, and that's a few $100,000. We do it all in-house, minimal downtime, and then we keep trucking. I call that the mini overhaul, and then the next big one is the 12-year, and we don't do that. We don't do the engine. We sell them when the engine's due. We actually did switch out in-house and do the engine for El Dorado here as part of the deal through Airbus, but and just took that out of the price and made sure it was all signed off and good to go, and ferried it back. We helped them ferry it back to California. They were new to the A-Star, and they did an incredible job. They got some really sharp folks getting involved in that, and we're excited for them. We get calls occasionally, what about this? What about that? And we just said, hey, call us anytime. It's no bother. We don't want to bother you. But yeah, it works out with the 10-year replacement plan.
Can you talk about the decision to sell it at 10 years and what I know there's an incentive for you to get new aircraft, but why that 10-year mark? Where's the benefit there for you as an agency to get rid of it then?
Yeah, I think, I heard LA Sheriff used to do 7 or 8 year. And I remember Airbus saying, because I asked them when I was doing my research of how long should we keep them. And Airbus was saying the trade-in value, the biggest return on investment was around 7 or 8 years. Someone told me at the time. And I was just like, man, that's kind of an odd number. And that's, if I have 2 aircraft and I have them offset, then I'm doing one every 5 years. I think I can pull that off. I would love to do them both at the same time, and we've talked about that. And I think if I can get someone to purchase this one a little sooner, it'll be closer to the same aircraft, for standardization is so important. And these are pretty close, but there's definitely some different systems in them. Garmin has changed a lot. So I think the justification is standardization. It's return on investment. I mean, they couldn't believe, how well we did by repurposing this to someone that didn't want to wait a year to build one. How long does it take to build one of these, to purchase a new one, wait for Airbus to put it together, then you got to send it to a completion facility, and that takes a lot of time, where you can basically just line it up and then boom, you got one turnkey ready to go that we were using yesterday. Now you're using tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so there's some value to that, and it's, I kind of went with the half price of new sort of approach to a lot of things in aviation. You get a used serviceable, it's kind of half price of new. So we went down that road, and that's kind of what we've been able to do. And it fit within people's budgets. They had either seized some money, they had some like allotted money that worked with, where it wasn't enough for a brand new one. But yeah, I would say return on investment is huge. Reliability, you know, because we had 30, 40-year-old aircraft here, the OH-58s and the UH-1, and it was constantly something was coming due on the spreadsheet. And we were on call-outs only. You know, you fly 15 hours and then it's something else to do and it's down and you're shuffling all these aircraft around. So I'm like, look, I can provide a service to the county and the citizens and support the guys on patrol with 2 newer aircraft that rarely need anything but preventative maintenance, not unscheduled failures if we keep a newer fleet. Otherwise, I'm going to need a 3rd aircraft. And a lot of our surrounding agencies do have, some of them have older fleets where they'll have 4 and 5 helicopters, you know, and some of them will have newer, but they fly more than 1,000 hours a year, maybe 1,500. If I was flying 1,500, I would recommend a 3rd A-Star. But right now we've been able to do more with the same amount of hours. As my guys get better, I see the stats go up as we keep and retain people, as we talked about. The stats are going up, but it's the same amount of flight hours because they're doing more with less time, if that makes sense. So they're, you know, that's how I was looking at the numbers. I'm like, how are we getting these numbers with, and then I'm like, well, because I've kept and retained folks, and they just, you watch the videos and they're like, they're there and they find them quick.
Experience.
It all kind of works together in that way to, you know, bring in the right equipment, the right people, and then you have a product that you're creating from that that's, you know, being seen by your command staff, and they're willing to invest the money into the programs because of the result and product that you're producing as a result of that. So well done there. You talked about standardization. I'm big on standardization. I think it's really important to get in to an aircraft that's very similarly set up, whether it's, you know, aircraft 1 or aircraft 2 or whatever aircraft you're getting into. Can you talk about what your mission equipment looks like and what that standardization looks like?
Yes. So we've been with Westcam L3 for many, many, many years. We've had the MX-10s for, I think we had some. We don't have, our oldest one now is a 2017, but we had bought a couple of them. The generation 1, we were in the beginning when they first came out, and they were incredibly reliable. We use them all the time. They don't sit around, so they worked. And we bought service plans where they keep up with them, you know, and they'll send you a loaner. But we just weren't, I'm like, man, you guys are making a killing because we haven't even called you in like 4 years. We're broken. So now we have all Gen 4s, the new helicopter we got. I was trying to replace the cameras every 5 years. That doesn't, you know, I do get told no sometimes. And so I'm pretty much see that we're going to have to do that with the new helicopter. So probably keep a camera 10 years. Wow. Right. But they really, the MX-10 has done that for us. So that's been good. We did just switch over to Churchill just because they're just doing so much more. And my guys, I'm like, come on, guys, we've been with Aero Computer forever. Like, you know, there's some sense of loyalty. We stick with companies that we know folks and we've been with them, but there was just so many upgrades and things. And once I finally saw it, I was like, wow, okay, guys, I see what you're talking about here. This is incredible. So we made the big switch, and we actually purchased a second system to retrofit our older helicopter. So we're all shot over now, and eliminated the extra DVR. So we're recording there. I was like, oh, I don't know, like having that all in one system. We used to have the standalone DVR, but I was assured that, you know, that's reliable, and yeah, that's been great. We're doing the Traca Spotlight, got the latest and greatest of that on our newest helicopter, and we had an older system. And, you know, when that first came out, I was told, oh, we might want to stick with the Night Sun, you know, the good old reliable. And we did for our first A-Star. And then they had some more time under their belt, and we were hearing some good stuff. And I said, look, if I'm going to switch, I would like to get a nice, big, long warranty on this thing, just in case, because it's a lot of moving parts and pretty techy. And I didn't, for 5 years, we didn't do one warranty claim. And it was like 5 years and 2 months, and something broke for the first time. And I called them, and they were like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, we never even used it. Can we get grandfathered in? So that worked out, you know, and that was an exception. They're like, you know, don't tell anybody. Oops, I just told a bunch of people. But that's back when they were brand new.
Millions of listeners have just heard.
Millions and billions.
I love what Track is doing for the industry and Shotover as well. You know, they've both kind of looked outside the box and created products that are changing the industry and challenging the other manufacturers of these products to do what they're doing to a greater level. So I think it's good for the industry as a whole to see this development and kind of push the industry forward in that way. Track is, you know, they've made some really cool products. Their lights are fantastic. And Shotover, I can't say enough good things about them. You guys have done a good job of selecting your mission equipment and developing your fleet. I'd like to talk about some of the topography and airspace considerations you guys have. And then I'd like to get into weather because, like Jack said, you guys don't have weather in Florida. So,
but we do. We have severe thunderstorms. You're supposed to fly 20 miles away from a severe thunderstorm. FAA recommends. So, that's a long way around to get to the call around that thunderstorm. But luckily, they move in and out quick. But yeah,
that's, I guess, the one constant in Florida is the changing weather. I've only been there a few times. But each time I've been there, you know, it's 1 hour, it's raining and it looks like the world's going to end. And then the next hour it's sunny and the birds are chirping. So
that is a true story.
You guys deal with a lot of unique weather considerations. Let's start there since we're talking about it. Can you talk about some of the considerations that you have to put in place to operate in that environment? You talked about lightning, thunderstorms. I'm sure you guys get hail from time to time. And then the hurricanes that come through as well. That's a big deal.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Yeah, we don't mess around with the thunderstorms. We have an alarm here at the airport that we can all hear, like through the walls, when there's a thunderstorm nearby. So we just wait till it's gone because there's crazy gusts and wind, and but like you said, it moves through quick usually. Fog is the other big one. I'd say fog and thunderstorms are our two top issues. Hurricanes, we don't fly, we shut down. We either evacuate to the convention center that's rated much higher than our hangar. Us and a lot of folks go there, or we stay here, and we don't really usually go out of town. It's either the convention center. We have many years ago, we'd fly to the West Coast or somewhere else, far away. But Ian that just came through in 2022 was intense. We got some storms here, not bad, but what we found is a week or two, I think it was 10 days later, we were flooding everywhere with the rivers. Our Little Wekiva River and our St. John's River, there was nowhere for all the water to go. And, I got the privilege of flying our governor and attorney general to look at the flooding. And it was unbelievable, like nothing I've ever seen in, over almost 30 years of flying here. I've never seen that much flooding. It was unbelievable. Our water levels went up. So people had several feet of water in their homes. I was watching some media clips where they were giving tours of people's homes and canoes and boats floating through the homes. It was unbelievable, the amount of flooding that we got. And we did not get any hoist rescues out of that. They definitely rescued a lot of people by ground. We have some intense vehicles that can drive through some deep water. And the fire department and the sheriff's office used boats. And so we didn't wind up getting any rescue hoists out of that, but we were ready to go. We had crews staffed up, both helicopters, 2 crews ready to go.
With that fast moving weather, when you guys come in between flights, are you guys putting the aircraft in the hangar in the event something does roll through, or do you guys leave them on the ramp? How do you guys anticipate the weather that's about to come?
So we fly off of dollies, and of course we have the radar weather here. We use ForeFlight, and we use all of the web-based radar. We see it coming, and but we keep them in the hangar anyway because we do take off and land off dollies with John Deere as we pull them in and out. So this heat, the weather is so bad, I can't imagine these avionics sitting in the heat all day long. So it helps them keep reliable and last. So yeah, we'll just pull it in and out, and nothing's ever left out. So we're not going to have a surprise thunderstorm and we forgot to pull it in. We just takes a little bit of extra time. We get a call. We want to be airborne within 5 minutes. You know, put your helmet on, your vest on, pull the aircraft out, call ATC. 5 minutes or less, we can be airborne, no problem for emergency response. We got our system down.
We got better about pulling the aircraft in the hangar as well, for what the reasons you're talking about, avionics. And Jack, how many times did you go get in the aircraft and you try and touch something and it's on fire? You about melt your hand off.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. They got new covers a couple of years before I retired that really worked, but they were a pain in the butt to put off and on, but they really were incredible in how much cooler it was inside for the avionics, like Steve said, and for the touch, like he mentioned. Mm-hmm. They worked really well. But again, it took some extra effort, that's for sure, putting them off and on. They covered every window and from the outside. It was pretty cool.
Were those the California pop top?
I don't even remember what the brand was. I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah, learning to put those on was a bit of a challenge.
Oh yeah, it was. It was a pain. But they worked.
Yeah, our mechanics, like, you need to watch the video. They've got an installation video. Watch that video. And I watched it. And I'm like, oh, I've been rolling this thing up wrong the whole time. Once I figured out how to roll it up properly, you get it off and on pretty quick. Yeah, and it made a huge difference.
It did.
But like I said, we did get better about landing on the dolly and then pushing the aircraft into the hangar as time's gone on. So I'm a big advocate of that to protect the avionics and everything else in between. I like that.
Yeah, there's some risk landing on the dolly. I mean, some people, but everybody here pretty much is born and raised landing on the dolly. So I know I've in the past hired someone from the outside that I called it dolly-itis. They'd get near the dolly and it's all, I'm like,
it's a real thing.
We gotta train. I used to say we'd train your brain. I feel like he was like, what is that? I've never heard of train your brain. And now I see it all the time, train your brain. But so we got to train your brain. You're just getting close to it. Like, let's go land on this square of cement. Yeah. And you don't do that. So that's what's the difference?
Yep. I had that. There's no doubt. I think the first time I landed an A-Star on a dolly and took off was at factory school in Grand Prairie.
Oh, and wow.
I remember that going, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? And they said, oh, it's common. Just relax, And I remember taking students down to Carlsbad, to Palomar Airport, and every now and then at the FBO there, they'd guide you to a dolly, and it would be surprising, and you'd have a student and they're going, I got to land on that. Yeah, you can land on that. You landed 1,000 times. Just do it. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. It's a dolly. Just do it.
It's a real thing. I'm still convinced the A-Star has a mind of its own. The closer it gets to the dolly, the more it doesn't want to be there, and the same goes around. It's a dog or cat picking its feet up, not wanting to touch the water.
They don't call it the squirrel for.
That's right. That's right.
Well, man, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. I've got a whole list of questions that we didn't even get a chance to touch on. Your leadership principles are huge, and you've done a good job of creating a culture, your program that's created the success that we've talked about throughout the course of this podcast. So well done. Kudos to you for that, and to your team for doing all the things that you've talked about. Leadership is one of the biggest challenges I think that our industry faces as a whole. And we've talked to some folks from Florida, you and Lee Majors. We're really impressed with the things that you guys have brought to the table and the things you're doing for your agencies. Any, I guess, kind of last minute tidbits on leadership that you'd like to throw out for folks that are listening?
Like I said, communication. Don't feeling like you have to make all the decisions and stick to your guns. I think we still see that. It's like, keep an open mind. You know, a lot of times I have to go home and sleep on something, and I'm just like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. And I'll give you an example. Our new paint scheme, maintenance came to me, and me and maintenance we're like, he's right next door here in the office. We just talk all day, and he's like, why don't we do a black tail boom? And I'm like, we're not changing the scheme. It matches the patrol cars. We've been doing this forever. It looks great. And I'm just like, and then I hear, he goes, why don't we do a black belly too? Then, you know, where all the oil and the dirt. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. How would that even look? And so I remember time went on, and I just thought about it, and I'm like, well, let me just see what Airbus, let me send it. Let's see what tell them what we're talking about and just see. Cause my mind doesn't even work that way. And they sent us back this scheme, and we were all like, we love it, you know. And Vertical loved it so much. They were just out, and they put it on the cover of their magazine for the spring issue, and it wasn't even, we weren't even in there. There's no article. I was like, of all the helicopters, and everyone, even people that aren't even in the helicopter industry, come look at it. So I think and people walk in, I never used to see people's eyes go, wow. Yeah. You know, and so that's a really good example, I think, of just keeping an open mind, listening to your folks. And sometimes I always tell them, like, don't go by the reaction on my face when you say something. Just know that I value all of your opinions, and I'll go home and I'll sleep on it, and I'll come back and go, you know, that's all right. Let's see. And I think that was a really good, you know, we were all just like, this is amazing. So keep an open mind, work together, you know, and hopefully, you know, you get that stability with your team and selecting good folks. Cause I could have all these great ideas, and if everybody's like not working together and invested in the operation, like, and if I don't have the funding, you know, we could all be all amazing and talking and have all that, and don't have the funding. It's a multiple, you know, it's funding and the folks, good people, and everybody working together is the critical element. And I feel confident if something happened to me, God forbid, tomorrow, the operation would continue to move on, and everybody would step up. And, you know, it's not my culture. It's we've all worked together. It's not, it's common sense stuff. It really is. We're just blessed to be able to use common sense and the government approach to the way we're doing things here. And it's a family, it's a team, it's a family.
Absolutely.
100%. And people come to our operation from other places, and, you know, someone's sick or they have a problem at home, or they're amazed at the culture of everybody stepping up, because it might be hard to get in the family, but once you're in it, you're in it. You're in the circle of trust, right?
Yeah. Blood in, blood out. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to sit down and talk to us about your program. Really impressed with your program, your leadership skills, and just the overall job you're doing down there. So, Jack, any last words before we close out here?
Yeah, John and I never know where the conversation is going to go. We really don't. We have outlines, and we do all that stuff and research, but we never know where it's really going to go. And this was really nice today to go down, and the things that I got, not just leadership, but the culture that you and others have created in your unit, and how valuable that culture is. And I love that you brought up common sense, because it's something that is so lacking in police works. I mean, in a lot of policies and procedures and practices in police work, it lacks common sense. It's because it's government related. So the fact that you can fight through that and apply common sense, like you talked about, that was really, that stood out to me. And I loved hearing that. But I'm really impressed with everything I heard, Steve. And I look forward to stopping into your hangar at some point and visiting and seeing more, because it's just, you have a good unit, and it wasn't by accident. You worked hard at it. And the fact that you've been in it from the ground floor, that's really cool too. That was really, that's really neat to me to see and talk to you about talk to someone that's been in from the ground floor and where it's come. It's come a long way. It's come a long way. And I don't have to tell you, you're living it. But a lot of that has to do with good leadership and good culture. So kudos to you, Steve, and all your folks for keeping that going.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here,
Jack.
I'll just say one more thing. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, and he talks about common sense quite a bit. He talks about how we live in a day and age where common sense is a superpower because not many people have it. Yeah. And it's the sad truth, especially in government work. Yep. So you guys have cracked the code and figured out how to implement that, and well done. I'm sure you're going to be inundated with emails, phone calls, and questions from folks on some of the things you've discussed. So sorry about that, but
I'm happy to help. It was an interesting time in my career. I don't remember when it was, 5 or 10 years ago, where I started getting calls, people asking me questions. And they're like, hey, I'm running this unit now. And, a lot of the people that I grew up with that were in it when I started, that I looked up to or have now retired, and people are starting to call. And I was like, wow, I have a responsibility and a duty here to take the time out of my day and respond and talk to people and share. So I appreciate John and Jack, you having me on this platform, get the word out. It's not rocket science, but yeah, I'd be happy to pay it forward and help out whoever I can. And sometimes I'll refer you to one of my guys. Everybody's willing to help. So it's not me. I don't know everything. I have experts in each area that people, like we talked about before. So I just help kind of steer the ship and listen, and
that's what a good leader
do what
does.
I can to positively affect others every day. This is my main goal.
Well done, Steve.
Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And until we see you next time, we'll catch you later. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Bell is proud to sponsor Vertical Helicasts and their vision to hold meaningful mission, safety, and best practice conversations in the helicopter industry. The lessons learned from these conversations will undoubtedly shape the future of both new and veteran helicopter operators.
You protect and defend. So do we. Astronautics' proven cybersecurity, connectivity, and upgrade solutions support helicopter OEMs and operators worldwide. When the mission matters, you need to trust that your avionics systems are secure, connected, and reliable because lives depend on it. Continue to protect and defend. So will we. Contact Astronautics at www.astronautics.com.
As we conclude this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Lt Steve Farris for sharing his remarkable journey through law enforcement aviation. His insights into the growth of the aviation unit, the challenges of operating in unique environments, and the strategic importance of communication and culture have provided us with a deeper appreciation for the complexities of law enforcement aviation. The stories and experiences shared today highlight not only the dedication and hard work required in public safety aviation, but also the critical role of leadership and common sense in ensuring operational efficiency and safety. Lieutenant Farris's emphasis on mentorship and succession planning serves as an important reminder of the need to foster the next generation of aviation professionals. As we reflect on the topics discussed, ranging from aircraft management to the integration of technology in law enforcement, we're reminded of the vital contributions made by those in the front lines. We hope you found this conversation as engaging and insightful as we did, and want to thank you for joining us today on the Hangar Z Podcast. Cheers.
Time to close up the hangar. Thanks for joining us on the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.